Well, glad to have you back. Now, Nigeria's private sector recorded its strongest expansion in over a year and a half as the Stanbic IBTC Bank Purchasing Managers Index PMI rose 54.2 in August, up from 54.0 in July, marking a 19-month high in the new order growth and a 4-month high in output. The PMI reading, which has remained above 50.0 threshold for 9 consecutive months, signals sustained improvements in business conditions. The August uptick reflects sharper increases in outputs and new orders driven by rising customer demand and a greater willingness among clients to commit to new projects. According to the survey, output increased across 3 of the 4 sectors, namely services, construction, and agriculture, with manufacturing being the only laggard. Firms responded to higher demand by expanding staffing levels for the 3rd consecutive month, although the pace of job creation softened compared to July. Purchasing activities also slowed, but input buying remained strong as businesses accumulated inventories in anticipation of future growth. Companies were able to clear backlogs for the first time in 5 months, indicating improved operational efficiency. My guest is Professor Ken Ife. He is a development economist. He joins me to make more sense of this trending report. Thank you so much, Prof. Good afternoon, and it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. So pleased to be here.
Yeah, Prof, 19 months high. My first question would be, whenever the threshold is above 50.0 and there's a bit of growth, that shows that there is growth in the entire space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, now that we're at about 54.0, what do you make of this report saying there's high demand, inflation is easing?
Well, first of all, let's put it in its proper perspective. At first, I really congratulate Stanbic IBT for bringing this dimension of econometrics so that we can get a bigger picture. So we're not relying entirely on just CBN and then not relying on NBS, but there are other views. But of course, it also focuses on the private sector. And then we get a strong view of the economy, business environment, the dynamics of the business environment. So in that respect, doesn't quite deal with the other side of things about general consumers in the country and other people, but it gives us a good idea.
Okay.
So what I would say is for you to have that level of purchasers and managers index, purchasing managers index being at 54 and still rising and keeping at that level for over 19 months shows is a sign of good health for the economy. But don't forget that there are other dimensions to this, but it is a very, very strong indication that the economy is turning around and moving forward. And there are many other things that will give us more information about this.
The issue with manufacturing, to me, is worrisome. We even saw the confidence index for man lately, a bit of reviving their hope in the economy. But what do you make of the state of manufacturing and challenges they face also at this time compared to this report?
Well, our manufacturing sector has been having severe challenges because, manufacturing is heavily dependent on structural factors. It's not like services. Service industry, me and you can lie down on our bed and we'll be punching doing our transactions, financial transactions, listening to using ICT technologies, all of that. But for manufacturing purposes, first of all, energy. The big crunch is energy. Energy availability, energy stability, cost of energy. Then they have transportation costs. That is huge. And something has to be done about that. And depending on the nature of the manufacturing, agro-industrialization is also having severe challenges and lots of challenges. So solid mineral, we have issues there. So, and then you come to petroleum refining, petroleum manufacturing. So you have also, all of those are quite broad. The forces are very, very broad and performance predicated on a much, much wider range of factors. And those are structural. And even insecurity. Insecurity hits manufacturers because it hits the supplies, it hits the logistics, the chain, it hits every aspect of their work. So that's why we are having challenges there.
Inflation, in that same report, the IBTC report, back to it again, says inflation is likely to remain soft. Now, can this be an incentive for the MPC moving forward to adopt a more accommodative stance with rates? Do you think that would move the MPC?
I'm not quite sure about that, because it talks about this inflation in the context of the work that they have done. Remember, they looked at output, they looked at staffing levels, because one of the inflationary figures is output levels, staffing levels. If you have wage increases, rapid wage increases and demand, also very inflationary. So they looked at all that, and then there are input relation things. You have purchasing activities, all right, that's fine. But all the inflation projection that they are having is within the context of the business environment that they're investigating and researching on. And they now went ahead of that to now predict that it may well be that, CBN may take a strong look at this and then, moderate inflation and moderate the MPR rates. And I'm not sure I'm 100% with them on that, because there are other issues. If you look at those inflation figures, you will find that while generally you seem to have inflation trending down slightly, but if you look at month to month, the figures are going up, just on month to month. And you can't actually do much with the year to year, because we have a rebasing. We rebase the economy. So you have to wait until February next year, when we are now solidly under the new rebase, 1 year in the rebasing, then you can actually make sense of that. But other than that, the MPC will be looking at the month-to-month figure, and probably they will judge it premature to reduce that figure. Or they could stay still, but I wouldn't advise them to reduce it. If the economy is performing as well as it's supposed to have been performing, then I don't think you need to, because don't forget that there are also issues of money supply to the private sector. There are many other issues right there that they are concerned about. And even the stability of the foreign exchange is also very important. Bearing in mind, of course, that much of the liquidity you are getting on the forex market is actually coming from foreign portfolio investment, which is hot money. You can't bank on hot money to take a longer-term view of your other financials.
The month-on-month which you mentioned is something that I already had in mind. Prof, what are those factors specifically responsible for this continuous increase we see month-on-month? Because that's the most important way we could measure inflation.
Yeah, well, but remember what I said. When you come to inflation, there are 4 things you look at inflation. You look at output. Yes, quite a bit of that output, a lot of it has been captured by this. You also look at aggregate demand. Aggregate demand also, you can see part of it being captured. But how about the other 2 dimensions? The other one is government purchases. That's the 3rd pillar of inflation. Then the other one is balance of payment, which although is very positive now, over $8 billion, $6-something billion. But these 2 are not actually captured in their own calculations. So you can't generalize just based on those 2 major ones. Quite important, because after all, domestic consumption is about 78 to 80% of our GDP. But that notwithstanding, it still can't conclude completely.
Globally, in some cases, we also see what's happening with the Reserve Bank and Donald Trump about rates and all of that. And the issue of tariff still remains back and forth and all of that. What are you learning with regards to that impact on Nigeria? It seems Nigeria is beginning to look at other countries. You see us already going everywhere, the president marketing the country and trying to explore other avenues. Do you see that as the way to go with regards to what's happening globally?
Absolutely. In fact, the president is unbelievable. His stance is unbelievable. One, look at the trip to Japan. With Japan now offering us a twin city arrangement, and then creating a Nigerian city there, which we believe must not be a ghetto, must be Silicon Valley of this world or Alaba market of this world, all of this, so that Nigerian entrepreneurship will blossom in Japan. And then consequently, we also will not have Japan come here and have Japanese free trade zones, and then we reciprocate. So it's a very, very positive move. Secondly, the government is coming round to the reality that they have to have not only Nigerian first, but Africa first. And they are putting paid to the principle that, look, we're not going to have our raw materials go out here again and then with no value addition. Already a law has been passed on 30% value addition. We now have to start implementing it. So I'm so happy about what they're doing on shea butter. And then call the bluff. And then, of course, the solid minerals, call the bluff, Nigerian first. And then look at Dangote investing $2.5 billion in Tanzania. It's never done anywhere in Africa. It shows our faith in Africa first. So Nigeria is leading. And of course, the digital economy, Nigeria is the epitome of the digital economy. Everything about Nigeria is music to the ear of investors. And we should just consolidate, try and sort out agriculture, because we need heavy mechanization in agriculture so that we can increase the output. And then, of course, investment on a value addition, so that we can guarantee ourselves food security as well as adequate industrial raw materials for agro-industrialization. I think we're on the right step.
I think that is where Brazil comes in. A lot of agreements with the Bank of Agriculture. During that meeting, the state visit to Brazil, where President put pen to paper on 5 different MOUs concerning agriculture. I think Brazil is big in agriculture. What do you think we can really learn, or how can we help each other? What can they transfer? Talking about knowledge transfer and all of that with that country.
You know, in development economics, what you try to do is what we call shadow economics. You find a country that is exactly the same with your country in almost all respects, and then look at their trajectory of growth, and you then mimic them. The closest country to Nigeria is Brazil in terms of all parameters. And don't forget that 40% of Brazilians are Nigerians from the southwest part of our country. So they match us in virtually every respect. But when you look at their GDP, it's several times our GDP. You look at their GDP per capita, it's many, many times. You look at their power, many, many times Nigerian power. Agriculture, many times. So their economy is so evolved, and we can quietly do better by mimicking that economy, because all the policy issues and challenges we are going to face, they faced them a few years ago, and they've overcome all those asymmetries. So it is the most robust country that we can say, okay, don't follow India sheepishly or South Africa. No, South Africa has a different trajectory. It is Brazil. Brazil is the country. And there's so much going for Brazil that Nigeria would do much, much better if we want. You have Petrobras. Petrobras is the equivalent of NNPC. And when I talk about NNPC, I'm not running NNPC down. I'm saying to NNPC, borrow a leaf from Petrobras. Borrow a leaf from Saudi Aramco. Those are your peers. Go out and attract investment on upstream. Go to the offshore and do floating LNG. Go there, create strategic reserves. Do something positive and stop bulldozing and destroying our economy with all this kind of Mickey Mouse things you are doing. You are repairing this economy, you are repairing this refinery, and all of that, and you are importing. No. So that is exactly what it is. You look at the agriculture, they're doing quite well, and that's why everybody is going to Brazil.
Indeed, I'm one of those that are in support of national oil company, because you see many countries, the French companies, just like we know Petrobras, but of course they need to be competitive and do the right thing. You talked about, back to our report on FDIs and FPIs, we talked about hot money, which we know is coming in now, particularly because of the stability in the foreign exchange market. That disparity is not what it used to be, thanks to the central bank and what's happening. But Prof, in your understanding, what's happening to FDIs? And what are those things that we need to do, maybe to our trade policy, industrial policy, and all of that? Are they in tandem? We know with today's game and what is happening globally and everywhere, are we set to attract foreign direct investment?
We're still not there yet. It's quite a way to go. And you see, when you talk about complete meltdown in FDI, you just link it to manufacturing. It's not the only thing, though, but it just links it straight to manufacturing. Because we're having a bad day with manufacturing activities, not least agro-industrialization, and look at all of that. Power hasn't been sorted out, but power is a life wire. If you go to the website of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, they say that 77% of the companies are held bound. They're all held down by power availability. And if you look at the tax GDP revenue of our country, it's only about 10%, but compared to the average of 18% across the continent. But why we look as if we have the lowest tax regime, but the actual fact is that we have the highest implicit tax in Africa. Now, what that means is that if companies come here, they pay for their power, they do their own generation, they do their own infrastructure road into their place, they do borehole, do water, they're diverting away their resources from the core business that they came to do. So it's difficult to persuade a board in Germany or in America, oh, we want to invest $2 billion in Nigeria. Oh, wait a minute, sir. We forgot that $200 million will be required to put by power, and then you have another $50 million for infrastructure, for support, for security, and another $100 million. And they say, no, forget it. They go to another country. So that's the thing. So the FDI, and then we also tend to be ignoring domestic investment. Domestic investment is very heavy. I mean, how could Dangote put $20 billion? It wasn't reflecting that FDI. But look at how much domestic investors are putting. So you have to encourage them. But on the front line of the FDI, don't forget that many of the companies in the country, legacy companies, are expanding so some of the money they get from their parent companies abroad qualify as FDI. So when they expand to other states, yes, they recognize those expansion, and then the takeover of companies, and then the consolidation of, so they recognize those as foreign. So when some of them begin to disappear, to go to Ghana, obviously it's going to affect you. And then the insecurity that we talk about, insecurity is not in your bedroom where you are doing your Nokia to Nokia and then transferring money or doing phone calls. Insecurity is when you go out there to go and farm or collect your goods. Then when you are going to transport your goods. So it affects industrial development so much. It affects them. So all the structural factors are affecting them. Transportation costs, energy costs, name it, input costs are going up. So all of them are affecting our industrial capacity and by implication, the foreign direct investment.
All right, finally, Prof, before I let you go, today is September 2nd, and we're already moving into the last quarter of the year. By the time we get into October, we're getting to the last quarter of the year. What's your projection for the end of the year? We're expecting another GDP figures, I guess, will be coming soon. We're expecting inflation. Maybe that's going to come in another 2 weeks. But your outlook for the entire year 2025, what do you think will close the year with regards to inflation? Maybe do you think there'll be any shift? We have 2 more meetings for the MPR, Monetary Policy Committee this year. I think one in September and I think one in November, and that will be it for the year. What are your projections for all of these expected figures as we move towards the end of the year, considering the fact that many are coming up with the saying Nigeria's economy is stabilizing and bouncing back?
No, the economy, without a doubt, is stabilizing. And then if you look at the results of the analysis of the Stanbic Bank, you will see that on one hand, it says purchasing activity is slowing, but on the other hand, it also says that the input buying is stronger. Don't forget that we are moving into Christmas season. So those who are producing for heavy consumption in that Christmas season are now investing in the input. They're buying their input. Those who have ordered goods abroad, now they're settling those bills and buying. And those things will come in for them just in time for them, because they need about 2 months to shipment. So you can see that the whole of September, October, they will be producing for Christmas. So that's why you could see they're all signals of increased tempo of activity. And then on the other hand, all the inflationary factors during Christmas will not be there, because the Dangote has rolled out 1.7 trillion to have 4,000 trucks to ensure that price of crude PMS is going to stabilize. And you've seen that the price is coming down. It's 804 something, so it's coming down. So it's no longer going to have long queue or having hoarding of petrol or all of that, or sharp rises in the transportation of raw materials and food. This is not going to happen. So all of these are pointing to growth and the sustainable growth as we come towards the end of the month or end of the year.
It's a good way.
It will also affect inflation as well. Inflation will also trend down, because that is the peak. That is our cyclical peak. December is a cyclical peak of inflation in the year. So it's not going to have that that luxury of jumping up and down in this December.
All right, then. Development economist Professor Ken Ife, always interesting having you join the program. Thank you for your time. Do enjoy the rest of your day, Prof.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, then. Let's